Tonight, an I-Team exclusive raising questions surrounding the taxpayer-funded North Bergen Housing Authority. Can the director of security of that authority also be the animal control officer for 6 different towns? And records show he has even more job titles in Hudson County paid for, that's right, by you, the taxpayer. Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Deans once again on the money trail. Jonathan.
Not only the housing authority in North Bergen gets millions of federal tax dollars, some of that money pays for security. So we tried to ask the security director how he's able to handle his public housing duties. At the same time, he's overseeing animal control in 6 different towns. But as you'll see, he was in no mood to talk about it. Meet Jeffrey Santini, seen here at the animal shelter he runs in West New York. He drives this black Chevy Tahoe provided by the North Bergen Housing Authority because he's the director of security there. But multiple sources familiar with housing authorities in Hudson County claim Santini is rarely seen at his full-time security job at the Housing Authority, which pays $81,000 a year plus benefits. Our sources say Santini spends much of his workdays here, running a separate animal control business that pulls in nearly $350,000 a year, also from taxpayers. How much time did you see Santini spending at that housing authority?
20 minutes, 30 minutes max.
A second source says Santini's work at the housing authority amounts to a no-show job.
He's very well known in Hudson County. He doesn't put in the required hours.
Our cameras staked Santini out over 5 days trying to clock the time he spent at the housing authority.
12:50, have not seen Mr. Santini.
Regular office hours are 9 to 4, and we were only able to observe Santini there for a total of 3 hours over those 5 days. But our cameras were able to follow and find Santini at the animal shelter for hours at a time.
And he's now back at the animal shelter. He came to the shelter.
His security vehicle, paid for with housing authority dollars, can often be seen parked outside his animal shelter.
3:36, and there he is.
We also requested this security camera video from the housing authority. It's one of Santini's animal control vehicles. We followed in our silver minivan and watched as animal control workers used the housing authority's garbage bins. The 3 sources we spoke with say Santini has free reign at the housing authority, especially that black Chevy Tahoe.
He was supposed to use it for only housing authorities only, but he would use it for his personal, he'd use it for animal control.
Numerous sources claim Santini boasts of his friendship with North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco, and the pair at times are seen together in the housing authority vehicle, as seen in this YouTube video of a local parade.
Say hello, Mayor.
The mayor, who helps appoint commissioners to the housing authority, says any alleged wrongdoing should be investigated.
Scrutiny never hurts. That's why you're doing an investigation and the housing authority is doing an investigation, and hopefully the truth is arrived at.
The housing authority spokesman, Phil Swabinski, says such use of taxpayer resources is appropriate. He says as a security supervisor, Santini needs to be available 24/7.
Given those responsibilities, we believe that it's in the best interest of the housing authority for him to be provided with a vehicle.
Gerald Sanzari is the NBHA director. He had first denied our request for an interview, so we tracked him down at the housing authority. How many hours a week does he work here?
He works 35, 40, 45, depends on how many, because he comes in on the weekends too.
A claim our 3 sources say is laughable.
There's no point of paying this man in taxpayers' money if he's only going to abuse the privileges that he gets.
We also tried to question Santini, but he secured himself in his security vehicle. You want to roll down your window for a minute? And he called the police on us.
No-show jobs are always a problem.
Former federal prosecutor Robert Ray says the allegations against Santini may catch the attention of state and federal investigators.
Potentially raises issues that would attract the attention or should attract the attention of federal or state prosecutors in New Jersey.
It's not just me who's seeing this happen, and the right thing needs to be done.
Record shows Santini also has 2 part-time jobs, also paid for by taxpayers, as a constable and as a part-time assistant to a Hudson County freeholder. Meanwhile, the housing authority says it can't provide us with any timesheets because they say as a salaried worker, Santini is not required to fill out any attendance records.
Jonathan Dienst, News 4 New York.
Natalie is off tonight, and we begin with an update to an I-Team exclusive about something fishy going on in Hudson County, where a possible corruption scandal appears to be growing.
Just days after the I-Team first exposed potential corruption in the federally funded North Bergen Housing Authority, officials are now investigating the allegations made in our report. Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Dienst is here with more. Jonathan.
Yeah, more questions about possible corruption after police were called in to help confiscate property from the North Bergen housing complex. It all apparently stems from this. How can the full-time housing security chief also be the animal control officer in 6 different towns all at the same time?
The North Bergen Housing Authority has now put its security director, Jeffrey Santini, on leave as an outside law firm led by Mark Tabakin is investigating the corruption allegations. And local police were called to the Housing Authority twice this week in connection with that investigation. First, police say while on leave, Santini came back to the Housing Authority to get into the Housing Authority SUV he had been using, amid his apparent refusal to turn the keys in to his supervisor. Police reports show officers were called and later found Santini in a nearby Fairview diner to get those keys. Police were called to the Housing Authority a second time, towing away several cars in question. Police for now only saying the cars had been parked improperly on the property. But insiders say they told investigators Santini may have been operating a used car sales business there. Santini was placed on leave after the I-Team first reported on allegations the security director simply was not showing up for work at the Housing Authority. Instead, insiders told us he had been using the taxpayer-funded Tahoe for his separate animal control business. And there are new questions about Santini's use of Housing Authority resources. We found this recently expired $26,000 animal control contract with the town of Harrison. In it, Santini apparently lists a Housing Authority location for the animal control business. When we first started asking questions, the head of the Housing Authority defended Santini's job performance.
How many hours a week does he work here?
He works 35, 40, 45, depends on how many, because he comes in on the weekends too.
Late today, a housing spokesman confirmed they called police twice on Santini, that the Housing Authority has taken action in order to secure possession of NBHA property. Director Santini will remain on paid administrative leave for the duration of the investigation.
Records show that law firm hired to investigate the corruption claims has donated about $35,000 to that town's mayor, Mayor Sacco, and the North Bergen Municipal Committee. This is at least one of several whistleblowers who called us, has now contacted the State Attorney General's office. Today, Santini said only he has hired a lawyer and referred our calls to him, calls that went unreturned. Back to you.
Questions of corruption continue in North Bergen's Housing Authority. As the I-Team first reported, the full-time security director there has been fired amid no-show job allegations while he was running an animal control business in 6 different towns at the same time. Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Dienst joins us now with an update on this investigation. Jonathan.
Natalie, after our report, subpoenas were issued by federal prosecutors. Investigators taking a hard look at the corruption questions involving the alleged misuse of local and federal tax dollars.
There's a dual investigation going on, administrative and potentially criminal from the federal side.
That's the head of North Bergen's Housing Authority talking about the firing of his security director, Jeffrey Santini. Santini lost his job after our story that he was running an animal control business in 6 different New Jersey towns. At the same time, he was the full-time security director at the NBHA. Santini was also working as a part-time constable. Records also show he's also paid as a part-time aide to county freeholder Anthony Vanieri. And there's more. 3 sources tell us Santini was also being paid to head security at the neighboring Renaissance Apartments. And News 4 has obtained records that show Santini is also working as a part-time health inspector in Weehawken. Several towns now tell us they've received grand jury subpoenas about Santini's work. Some towns now canceling its contracts. Bayonne just yesterday ending its $87,000 annual deal with Santini. But the city of North Bergen, where Santini has close ties to Mayor Nicholas Sacco, is still paying him $160,000 a year for doing animal control work there. The mayor has told us he supports a full investigation.
And hopefully the truth is arrived at.
A town spokesman late today said the $160,000 annual contract stands. There's no actionable cause to terminate the contract, and doing so at this point could trigger a legal challenge, he said, adding the town and residents are generally satisfied with Santini's animal control work. But the North Bergen housing director told us Santini no longer has his $81,000 job there due to corruption allegations.
We've terminated Jeffrey Santini effective on March 28th.
A lawyer for Santini has not returned repeated calls, but he told the Hudson County View Santini plans to sue the housing authority for wrongful termination. This as a U.S. attorney spokesman not commenting on where their corruption investigation stands.
Allegations of corruption keep growing in North Bergen, stretching from a public housing complex to perhaps into that city's town hall. Well, tonight, more whistleblowers, current and former insiders claim that some apartments meant for the needy are instead going to friends and supporters of North Bergen's mayor. Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Neese is here with more for us. Jonathan?
Chuck, insiders stepping forward with new troubling allegations after we first reported on no-show job claims involving Jeffrey Santini, the former housing security director there. Santini has close ties to North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco. Santini was fired after our initial story. But insiders tell us the no-show job allegations just scratched the surface of corruption at the North Bergen Housing Authority.
Meet Cheryl O'Shea. She's a political ally of North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco. O'Shea works at the North Bergen Housing Authority and lives there in this 3-bedroom townhouse. Based on a reported $15,000 a year salary at the Housing Authority, O'Shea pays $350 a month in rent. But state pension records show O'Shea is actually paid about $51,000 a year. And under guidelines, her rent should be roughly $1,300 a month.
She makes way more than $14,000. It is not a fair and square process. Their salaries aren't truthful and they get reduced rent for it.
Is it just employees or is it political supporters as well?
Political supporters as well.
Also, meet Esther Cordero, seen here on the Housing Authority Facebook page. Whistleblowers say she's a staunch supporter of Mayor Sacco. Cordero is an assistant building manager at the Housing Authority. Based on a reported salary of $22,000, she pays $550 a month. But state records show she really earned $40,000 in 2016, where she should have been paying roughly $1,000 a month.
It's not right, especially with the apartments that needy families could be using. 6
current and former insiders familiar with the Housing Authority have stepped forward to allege abuses at the federally funded complex.
I believe it's criminal.
A spokesman sent us a statement on behalf of the Housing Authority and staff telling us 11 employees do have apartments and that some do extra labor on the property. Quote, those employees are not bound by income restrictions. But federal officials tell us just 3 employees are approved by HUD for what they call special live-in deals.
I call the meeting to order.
The director of the Housing Authority is former North Bergen Deputy Police Chief Gerald Sanzari.
Jonathan Neese with NBC.
Sanzari at first defended his housing security director, Jeffrey Santini, amid no-show job allegations.
How many hours a week does he work here?
He works 35, 40, 45.
Santini was fired after our stories ran. These insiders allege that under Sanzari, some employees are extensions of the Sacco political machine, making housing decisions in part based on a tenant's political support for Mayor Sacco.
Cheryl O'Shea would look and see if people are supporters, and if they aren't, they would not get an apartment. It was Cheryl, who's manager of that building, who said, I don't want her here. She votes for the opposition.
The people in need have been turned down because of their political affiliation.
And they say O'Shea, the now fired security director Santini, and others pressed workers to support Mayor Sacco politically, especially buying tickets to Sacco's campaign fundraisers.
They come up behind you. They give you your ticket. They'll block your car in. They know if you do buy one or not.
A housing spokesman said political opponents of the Sacco administration have made similar claims numerous times in the past, and they have no merit.
We've seen cases like this.
Former federal prosecutor David Miller reviewed the many allegations being raised.
Remember, of course, that this housing authority receives federal funding. That could make all of these actions federal crimes. Because even if you're looking at small amounts individually, number one, they aggregate up, and number two, we're potentially talking about wide-ranging political corruption.
The 6 current and former insiders say they're blowing the whistle now to try to level the playing field for needy families desperate for affordable housing.
When is enough enough?
I often wonder where the FBI, where the Attorney General is.
After our past reports on the authority, a federal criminal investigation was opened. Late today, the housing spokesman said its director will now seek additional guidance from HUD on how many employees can be given apartments so the housing authority is in compliance with all regulations, adding that anyone with corruption allegations should feel free to report them. Chuck, Natalie, back to you.